And welcome, sports fans, to today's Roundtable, and glad you joined us for this New Year's edition of the Sports Roundtable. We're heading into 2015 now. It's been a great 2014 so far, wrapping up those Christmas tournaments last week, heading into January for this winter sports season. So a whole lot to talk about, especially with the Christmas tournaments that wrapped up last week, but we're heading back into regular season play. A lot of conference games going to be taking place this month and heading into February, and a whole lot to go through for the days upcoming in high school basketball. And also there's a lot out there in high school wrestling and other winter sports as well, which we'll be covering in the weeks ahead right here on Channel 21 and SemoSportsZone.com. And we're going to talk about those Christmas tournaments in just a moment. We did have some high school basketball action yesterday evening for Friday evening to get to, and we'll get to those right now as from those scores from last night. And one of the main games from last night was Jeff City Helias visiting Cape Central last night, and it was Helias defeating Cape Central 55-38. Jeff City Helias, one of the top schools in the state of Missouri in Class 4, and Cape Central took loss to them last night. And also, we had last night Campbell over Neelyville in overtime, 51-47. Nice victory for the Camels last night. And also from last night, Clearwater over Bismarck out west, 65-58. And Oran over Woodland, 61-58. A nice matchup up north between those two. Oran getting the win over Woodland last night. And Scott County Central over Delta, big, 96-15. No problem for the Braves last night in that contest. And Saxony Lutheran taking care of Egyptian Illinois, 72-45. And moving on to girls basketball, it took place yesterday evening. It was Saxony Lutheran, probably one of the top girls programs in Southeast Missouri this year, over Poplar Bluff. No problem, 53-27. The Lady Crusaders cruise over the Lady Mules last night. And also we've got Charleston over Delta, 62-27. And also wrapping up the girls basketball, Bismarck over Clearwater in a close one, 51-46. And those were the games from last night in high school basketball, both boys and girls. And we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to recap the Christmas tournaments from last week. That's the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament up in Cape Girardeau, also the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, which we brought to you live right here on Channel 21 and SemoSportsZone.com. So we'll show you the recap of those tournaments coming up next.
Deposit your check here or here or even there. Deposit your check wherever you are with First Midwest Bank's new mobile deposit. Just tap, snap, deposit. It's that simple. New mobile deposit from First Midwest Bank, serving the communities we call home.
Always on the go? Take the best in TV entertainment with you with New Wave to Go. Now you can enjoy your home television service everywhere, anytime on your laptop, tablet, or smartphone. Watch your favorite channels and sporting events live via the internet. Even access your home DVR to enjoy your recorded shows and movies or to set up future recordings. Prices start at just $12.99 a month. So call us today and ask about New Wave to Go. Another innovative service brought to you by New Wave, your local communications experts.
And we're back, and we're going to recap both the Christmas tournaments from Cape Girardeau, the Southeast Missourian Christmas tournament that took place up the road, and the Show Me Center in Cape Girardeau. Also, the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament that we showed live to you right here on YHC Channel 21 and SemoSportsZone.com. And what a tournament both of those were, coming down to very close games all the way down to the end. And especially for the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, a very competitive tournament this year. No one really stood out over each other, head and shoulders above the rest, which has been the case for the past few years. But very competitive tournament, top to bottom. Saw a few upsets along the way, some surprises. So certainly makes out for a very good tournament to watch and enjoy. And certainly was for the 58th Bloomfield Christmas Tournament this year. And we'll first start out with the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament, getting to those games from last week. And first starting off with the finals, it was Bernie over Kennett in a close one, 49-45. And Bernie winning this year's Bloomfield Christmas Tournament last Tuesday evening. And a great game that was, low-scoring game. It was possession by possession going back and forth between those two schools. And always a good matchup between those two schools, which was a rematch of last year. Kennett won that game handily last year, but Bernie getting the narrow victory this year for the 58th Bloomfield Christmas Tournament title. And we got some highlights of that game to show you from Tuesday evening. And we'll get to that in just a moment here. And here we go from Bloomfield Tuesday night. First, getting off a nice three-pointer by Ellenberg. Caleb Ellenberg knocking down the three. Now some nice ball movement with Andre Oliver getting the finish for the Indians. And it was close throughout. It didn't really, it didn't get much more than a 5 or 6 point game as Caleb Ellenberg knocks down a tough shot, a nice dribbling, and dish off to Brandon Sparks for two, as Matt Vernon was a big key in this game with his dribbling and ball handling. As we see here, Thomas knocking down the three for Kennett. And see here, Matt Vernon all the way to the hoop with the finish. And now we see here Caleb Ellenberg working against the Kennett defense. He was stifled all game long, but finds his way to the lane, knocking down the runner. And now we see Rancho Crothers knocking down the jump shot inside the three. Here into the third quarter, we see some nice ball movement and a finish underneath for the Indians. And Matt Vernon again going baseline with the reverse layup. He was a big part of this game for the Mules. And we see here Crothers knocking down the three along the left side. And here we see Devin Trammell get open for three on the right side, knocking down the three-pointer, extends their lead up to 6. Now here late in the fourth quarter, Thomas knocking down the three. Kennett needing to get back in this game, but a few free throws late by Caleb Ellenberg, putting it away for the Mules with the 49-45 victory. The Mules over the Indians from Tuesday night. So that's just a replay. If we'll come back to me here, that's just a loop of the replay there. And Bernie coming away with that victory. Very impressive victory for the Mules. They were the 4th seed in this tournament. Kennett was the 3 seed, so we didn't have our top 2 seeds with Hayti and Malden in there, but very good game, very good tournament. Very competitive tournament throughout. Great turnout for all the teams. Certainly an enjoyable experience once again for this year's Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And we'll look forward to it next year once again. And we'll bring all 26 games to you live once again next year. And it's quite an undertaking. I'm feeling the effects of it. Got a bit of the coughs and the sneezes, and just trying to keep it together. Hopefully I don't go into a coughing mess here on the round table. But certainly a great round table great Christmas tournament once again this year. And moving on to the other games from the Christmas tournament, the 3rd place game, Bloomfield getting a victory over Hayti to win 3rd place, 64-61. And Bloomfield, one of the big surprises of this tournament, the 7th seed coming into this year's tournament, got a victory over the top-seeded Hayti Indians for 3rd place. And Bloomfield knocked off the 2nd seed in the quarterfinals in the Malden Green Wave. So Bloomfield probably, outside of Bernie, had the best run of the tournament, knocking off 2 of the top seeds in this year's Christmas tournament. So Bloomfield really had a nice run in this year's Christmas tournament. And in the 5th place game, it was Malden over Twin Rivers to win 5th place, 63-39. Sizable victory for the Malden Green Wave. And also we have for the Consolation Championship, it was Puxico over East Prairie, 88-53. And both of those schools had a great run in the tournament. Puxico was the 10th seed in the tournament, and East Prairie was the 13th seed. They had a really nice run through this year's tournament, but Puxico winning handily in that consolation title, 88-53. So that's one team to look out for. And this year's Stoddard County Conference are the Puxico Indians. It's going to be a very good Stoddard County Conference this year. It's got a pretty deep conference this year. When you talk about Bernie already, you throw in Bloomfield in there, Woodland, Dexter, now Puxico, and even Advance. Advance got a really good team this year. And Bell City's coming along too with a pretty strong team. So a very deep Stoddard County Conference this year. And on to, that wraps up the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And moving on to the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament that wrapped up last week, Tuesday night as well. It was Notre Dame over Jackson in a close one in that final 60-58. And that's one team that's come on strong here in the last few weeks is Notre Dame. One of the top teams in the CMO Conference once again this year, and getting an impressive victory over the Jackson Indians. And moving on to the 3rd place game, it was Cape Central defeating Scott County Central 79-53. And a sizable victory for the Cape Central Tigers, pulling out 3rd place in this year's Southeast Missouri Christmas Tournament. And for 5th place, it was Charleston over Woodland, 89-80. The Charleston Blue Jays winning 5th place in this year's Christmas Tournament up in Cape Girardeau. And for the Consolation Championship, it was Oran over Bell City, and somewhat close one, 58-51. Oran getting that victory over Bell City Tuesday night. So that wraps up the wraps up the Christmas tournaments, both in Cape Girardeau and Bloomfield. Fine Christmas tournaments once again this year for the Southeast Missourian Christmas Tournament and the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament. And a lot of games. That's 52 games between 2 tournaments here in Southeast Missouri. So pretty impressive showing in both of those tournaments in Cape Girardeau and Bloomfield. And worth noting, the New Manor County Central Eagles participated out in the Carbondale Christmas Tournament in Illinois and the SIU Arena. And they come away with 2nd place in the overall, I believe that's the Reed Martin Plus championship game. They lost to Morgan Park of Illinois out of Chicago, one of the top teams in Illinois, and lost by only about 7 or 8 points. Did the New Manor County Central Eagles over in that Carbondale Christmas tournament, but they did win the single A tournament championship. It's a 16-team tournament. The smaller schools play in the single A bracket, and the larger schools play in the double A bracket. And then the winner of each bracket plays each other in the Carbondale Reed Martin Plus championship game. And they lost the Reed Martin Plus championship game, but did win their single A tournament bracket. So nice showing by the New Manor County Central Eagles in that Carbondale Christmas tournament. And that's going to wrap up this segment, and we're going to come back with more. We got some NFL playoffs coming up this weekend, also some college football getting underway as well with all the bowl games and the college football playoff well underway, and we'll talk about that coming up.
What is your emergency? Need assistance at County Road 61 and Highway 9. Help is on its way.
Clear! There's a better way to jumpstart your soil back to health. Apply Endzone to protect and increase nitrogen efficiency without killing bacteria. Apply Prevent to increase phosphorus availability and reduce fixation. Better yet, use them both to get more from your fertilizer investment and see higher potential yields. Ag Explorer, your prescription for healthy soil.
Welcome to NFL Total Access.
The show that takes you inside the locker room and down on the field. With inside access to all 32 teams all year long. NFL Total Access, Monday through Saturday, only on NFL Network.
NFL Network, where football season never ends.
And now we're going to take a look at some college football games that took place this past weekend. The college football playoff had its semifinal games this past week on New Year's Day, and it was kind of some surprises in that college football playoff. Oregon, the second seed, defeated third seed of Florida State sizably, 59-20, just a total rout by the Oregon Ducks in that semifinal in the Rose Bowl game in Pasadena. And the Oregon Ducks cruised to the championship game as Florida State really shot themselves in the foot in the second half, especially the third quarter, had multiple turnovers, fumbles, kind of unforced fumbles and turnovers as well, as notably I know Jameis Winston, last year's Heisman Trophy winner, was scrambling around, went back on his back foot, and then went back for the pass and fumbled it, and Oregon picked it up, took it in for the touchdown. It was just one of those nights for the Seminoles, the defending national champions, but just weren't in the game at any point, it seemed like, in that game on New Year's Day in that college football playoff semifinal. And the Oregon Ducks cruise as they're behind the Heisman Trophy winner, Marcus Mariota. Had a great game, moving on to the championship game where they will take on Ohio State, who probably had quite an upset, surprising victory over Alabama in the All-State Sugar Bowl semifinal game as they defeated Alabama. Pretty close game, but do advance to the championship game over the Alabama Crimson Tide. And they will take on the championship game will be the national championship game will be the Ohio State Buckeyes, the 4 seed, and they'll take on the 2nd seed Oregon Ducks in the national championship game next week. I think that'll be next Monday night. Not this coming Monday night, but the following Monday night on ESPN. So big game to look forward to there. And, the BCS, if we went with the BCS game, it would have been Alabama and Florida State in that BCS championship game. And what a wrong turn that would have been, having those two teams match up against each other. But put it on the field, and Oregon and Ohio State, excuse me, Oregon and Ohio State come out the victors and competing in that national championship game. And Ohio State was the controversial pick for the top 4, thinking TCU or Baylor deserved to be in there, and Ohio State dominated Wisconsin in that Big Ten championship game to get into the college football playoff. Certainly showed their worthiness of being in the football playoff, defeating the top-seeded Alabama Crimson Tide just a few days ago. So we'll see what happens in that national championship game between Oregon and Ohio State next week, or the week after next. Still got 10 more days, I believe, for that national championship game. And in the other bowl games, it was Missouri coming out with a Citrus Bowl victory over Minnesota. So not a bad year for the Mizzou Tigers, winning the SEC East and coming away with a Citrus Bowl title over Minnesota. And in other bowl games, it was TCU just rolling over Ole Miss in that bowl game, the Peach Bowl, as I think it was 49-3 or something like that. It was just a decisive victory for TCU over Ole Miss. And it's kind of surprising. Ole Miss had a pretty strong season. TCU did as well, but TCU probably showing their worthiness of being in that football playoff as well. Just didn't get the luck of the draw getting into that college football playoff this year. And quite a game between Michigan State and Baylor. Michigan State and Baylor in that bowl game. It was Baylor being up for most of that game till the very end. Michigan State scored with, I believe, 17 seconds to go as they scored the winning touchdown and defeated the Baylor Bears. And they had to come from behind to win that game. And Kyle Petty had a heck of a game for the Baylor Bears, throwing for 550 yards and just totally shattering that bowl record, that bowl game record for passing yards. I think the record was around 430 some odd yards, and he passed that record up in the third quarter and ended up with 550 passing yards, but just wasn't enough coming down to the end as Michigan State snuck in there in the end and won that bowl game against the Baylor Bears. So quite a game in that bowl game between those two schools on New Year's Day. And also we've got some NFL playoff games taking place this weekend. Gets underway today, actually, for this Saturday. And taking a look at the NFC wildcard game for today will be the Cardinals at the Panthers. Arizona Cardinals at the 7-9. The 7-9 Carolina Panthers in a very weak NFC South this year. The Panthers win that division once again this year, 2 years in a row, with a 7-9 record. And they'll host the struggling Arizona Cardinals down to what they're, I think, third or fourth string quarterback and Ryan Lindley. Ryan Lindley had a strong showing last week. Certainly going to have to have a nice showing on the road against the Carolina Panthers today, and that's at 3:20 today on ESPN. And the AFC wildcard game today will be the Ravens at the Steelers. That's an NFC North matchup, and the Baltimore Ravens will travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers tonight at 7:15 on ESPN as well. And the Steelers will be without their star running back Le'Veon Bell. He's out with hyperextended knee for the game, so the Steelers going to look for some running back production out of someone else for tonight. And in tomorrow's wild card games, Sunday at 3:40, the Detroit Lions, on the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys in the playoffs this year as as the NFC East champions. Should be a nice one there in Dallas tomorrow afternoon. And actually, that's the second game. The first game is the AFC wild card as the Cincinnati Bengals travel to take on the Indianapolis Colts at noon for tomorrow. And I believe that game is on NBC for tomorrow. So see how those wild card games play out for this weekend. And the two top overall seeds for each conference for the AFC will be the AFC East champion, New England Patriots, and the second seed with a bye as well are the NFC West champion, Denver Broncos, the defending AFC champions. And on the NFC side, the top overall seed and defending world champion, the NFC West champion, Seattle Seahawks. They're with the number one seed, and the second seed, also with a first round bye, the NFC North champion, Green Bay Packers. And those will be the divisional round matchups after the wild card weekend this week. We'll go on to take on those with the first round bye next week for the divisional round. So we'll see how those football wild card games take place today and see what matchups we'll have for the divisional round next week. Should be an exciting playoffs once again this year. Every now and then you'll get a team with a losing record in there with a division champion such as the Panthers. I was even thinking it might have been a 6-10 team winning the division in that NFC South this year. It's just a very poor division. Very disappointing year for the New Orleans Saints. They were really expected to do well this year and really compete for a first round bye in the NFC, but didn't even make the playoffs and lost 5 games at home. That's just totally unheard of. Usually they run the table with their home schedule at home, or does the New Orleans Saints, but they lost 5 games at home and really finished poorly for this year. But that's probably one of the biggest disappointments this year as you compare with their expectations. The New Orleans Saints really struggle this year. So that's your football matchups this weekend. We'll see what happens for this weekend, matching up those divisional rounds for next week. And that's pretty much all we've got to get to for our show today. And we appreciate you for tuning in as always. And we'll wrap up this New Year's edition of the Roundtable. And we'll see you right back here with us next week for another Roundtable. We'll have some coaches and some contributors in here next week to talk about the season so far. And until then, I'm Tyler Wagner. Have yourself a great week. Take care, everyone.